Right, so welcome to our exclusive baking session with Penny from Baking Blind. We're so delighted that she's doing this with us. Today is the soda bread. Hopefully some of you will be baking along with Penny, which is great. I'm Zoe from Opensight, Hampshire. Most of you know me. I'm visually impaired myself. So I've got backup today with my colleague Magda, who's going to be watching the tech side of things. And I'd just like to say happy International Women's Day, everyone. Yay! We have people attending this baking session with us from Australia, America, Zimbabwe, Holland. I can't remember the other ones, but welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. This is fantastic. This is being recorded. So if you don't want to appear in the video, please make sure your video camera is off. But hey, let's pass over to Penny. Let's get started, Penny. Welcome.
Thank you, Zoe. I think you'll all be, by the end of this, you'll all wish I hadn't been unmuted. Happy International Women's Day. And we were trying to decide whether there was an International Men's Day and thinking that, you know, it's a bit gender specific, all of this.
Very sexist.
Also, welcome to everybody who's coming in from around the world. And we are just thrilled that you're joining us. And we know that for some of you, it's really early. And for some of you, it's really late. So thank you for giving us your time and attention and, you know, your enthusiasm. Now I'm
Absolutely.
going to start this recipe quite quickly because it's going to take about half an hour to cook in the oven. And what you need to make sure is, because it's going to be so quick to make, that your ovens are on at gas mark 6. In front of me, I have a bowl. It's sitting on my scales, my talking scales, and I have here my flour and salt, which I have pre-weighed. So I've got 250 grams of, we call it self-raising flour, and that's ordinary all-purpose flour, which has got baking powder added to it by the manufacturers, and a teaspoonful of salt, and that's going into the bowl. So the next step is I'm going to put my scales on and measure in my yogurt. Now this is a natural plain yogurt, and actually we make it here ourselves, but I think any sort of supermarket yogurt, ideally organic. You don't want strawberry or raspberry or any of those flavors, just plain ordinary yogurt.
Hello.
So there's my delightful, polite scale going on. And I love these scales because they are a joy to listen to and to be spoken to. Now, I'm going to add the yogurt, and I'm looking for about 200 grams. And I may be quite careful to slightly underplay the yogurt because it's always easy to add more later. Right, that's over 190. I'm going to leave it at that at the moment. Okay, that's 195 grams. If I need a bit more, I'll take a bit more out later on. So I'm off the scales. I'm going to switch the scales off.
Scale is ready. Goodbye.
Isn't he polite? Goodbye. I just love him. Right. Now this is where you take your hand. I've got using my right hand because I'm right-handed, and I want you to think about using a claw. So your fingers are spread out, and you're going to try and use just up to the first knuckle of your fingers. If you get, and you're going to just stir it around in this gooey, cold, yogurty, sticky, messy. Ugh. Keep it stirring, move the bowl round, stir it about. You're mixing all, it's starting to come together for me. And I'm turning it off my fingers, trying to pick all the flour out from the bottom of the bowl. We've got this in the oven. I'd like just to chat to you a little bit about the origins of this recipe, because it's not the classic soda bread recipe. And in fact, I had an email from, I think, Caitlin in San Francisco, who was going to join us. And she was saying, oh, she's an Irish girl and she's had lots of soda bread, but never any like this. So I'm now terrified because this may not match her high standards and her experience. I am still stirring with my fingertips, and I am trying to get taking the dough off my fingers, putting it back into the bowl to keep re-stirring it in. And this is a sticky job. And what I have got already prepared is a bowl of hot soapy water so I can wash my hands. Now, I don't know how you're doing, but I can feel that this dough is coming together. I'm just feeling in the bottom of the bowl. There's basically no dry flour left at the bottom of the bowl. I'm squeezing it together just again with my fingers. This bread is nearly done. I'm just going to scrub off all the spare bits of dough on my fingers, put them back into the bowl, give it one more scrunch around, and we are nearly there. And I'm feeling, as I said, quite embarrassed because this is such a very simple recipe. We would often make this to go with a bowl of soup. So it's quick while the soup's heating up. We can just make bread and pop it in the oven, and then it's all ready together. Can you hear it? Baking sheet. I've got some parchment paper on there. Greaseproof paper would be just as good. Or I know some people may be using their tracing paper, Chris. What we've done is just put a little tiny bit of oil on here just to help it come off afterwards. So we're talking about a spray or just a couple of fingerfuls just spread over. Right.
Penny, could you just hold it up in front of the camera just for a minute to see what it looks like?
There it is. It is a rectangular baking sheet with a little lip on it, and then the parchment in the middle. And here comes the bread. And, you know, that is it. How simple is that? It's formed into a sort of rough ball, and I'm putting it on the sheet. And if I put my hand over it, my ball, I can cover my ball with my hand, with my fingers just very loosely spread, just to give you an idea of the size. I'm now going to get a very sharp knife and cut across on the top, and that helps the bread expand. So just like a crisscross on the top. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is soda bread. I'm putting it in the oven. Alexa, set timer 25 minutes. And that is it done.
25 minutes, starting now.
Right.
You made my one set 25 minutes as well.
I'm going to cook it now for 25 minutes, and then we'll turn it over and we'll cook it for another 5 minutes. This is not going to be some smooth, gorgeous shop-bought type of bread. This is much more rustic. It's going to have quite a thick crust. It's going to be quite crisp. It's going to have a lovely, hopeful crumb in the center. And it's not going to be a very perfect shape. We may have got it into rounds as it went in, but it will do its own thing in the oven and come out the shape it wants to be. So, are there any questions?
Penny, my name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
You've used self-raising flour. Does it matter what sort of flour you use with the quantities of yogurt?
Different flours will have different absorbences. So, for example, you could be making this bread today with a strong white bread flour or a wholemeal bread flour, whole wheat bread flour, or a plain flour. So all the time you're thinking, I've got flour, various sorts. I've got a rising agent, which could be bicarbonate of soda, could be baking powder, or it could be the baking powder that's already in self-raising flour. And then you've got the liquid. And I would suggest that you stick with yogurt at the moment because that's really simple and straightforward. And different flours have different absorbences. So that's why I was just being slightly careful about don't go mad putting all the yogurt in one go, because it's easier to add more than take it out, or you've got to start adding more flour.
Sure.
Is that enough?
Thank you, yes.
David here.
Hello.
Hi. You said gas number 6. Can you tell me what that might equate to in Celsius?
Alexa, what is gas mark 6 in Celsius?
Oh, that's a good idea.
6 gas marks is 200 degrees Celsius.
200 degrees Celsius.
200. Excellent. Thank you. Because here in Australia, ovens are marked on Celsius rather than the number.
No, I
Thank you for that.
understand.
Yeah, and welcome from Australia. Welcome.
Yes.
Hi.
What time is it
enjoyable.
over there?
9:27 p.m. Central Time.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
So, you could have this for breakfast then if you're making
Very good. Yes, indeed.
Penny, would it make a difference if you used fat-free yogurt?
I suspect not, because when we make the yogurt here, we use milk and a little culture from the last lot of yogurt. We make the yogurt and it's a bit sloppy. We strain it through the muslin, and I usually use strainings. So therefore, they're going to have had most of the fat come out. So yes, I think fat-free would do just as well.
Hi, it's Jenny here.
Hiya.
The question I've got is, I have heard in the past that putting a bowl of water at the bottom to help create sort of steam might help with the cooking process. Would you advocate that?
If you're making ordinary bread, which again we make here all the time, then you put a pan, a roasting tin in the bottom of the oven when you're heating it up, so that when you put the bread in, that roasting pan, which is empty, is searing hot, and then you throw in a cup of water, and that produces steam, and that helps the crust of ordinary bread. Now, when this comes out, you'll hear it, and this makes a very firm crust. I would be quite cautious. I've never done it, put extra water in a pan with this bread, because it already makes a very crisp crust. That's a difficult word to say at this time in the morning. Crisp crust.
Thank you.
Can you freeze soda bread once you've cooked it?
Yes. One of the things I've found with soda bread is that it does go dry quite quickly. So what I would be suggesting is once you've cooked it, you let it cool a bit, until you can actually handle it and all the rest of it. Then you take off your slices for whatever you're doing. And this is very much a bread to be used now. If you want to have, we often have it with supper in the evening, and then we will slice it at the same time for breakfast in the morning. It may be a bit dry for having just by itself, but it makes excellent toast the next day. We just pop it in a plastic bag overnight, and then it goes in the toaster in the morning, and it's delicious. But I see no reason why you shouldn't freeze it. It may crumble a bit when it comes out of the freezer, but we're only making quite a small loaf, and that's really the whole ethos of this bread. Is you're not making a huge amount, you're making it quickly, you're making it to eat then, and perhaps at another meal within a fairly short time.
Great, thank you very much.
Hello, it's Aya.
Hiya.
Hello. Can we put yeast instead of bicarbonate soda?
If you're going to do a yeasted flour, it is a different process. With a yeasted flour, yeasted bread, you are looking for a different sort of flour in the first place. You want something that has more gluten in it because you have to knead it and build up that gluten. You then have to prove it and re-knead it and then reprove it before it goes into the oven. So that whole process can take probably 4 or 5 hours before you're not actually doing a lot of work during that 4 or 5 hours. Most of it is proving time, but it is a quite different process. This is a ready to eat now sort of bread. Is that helpful?
Yep, thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Go for it.
Could you, while we're baking, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this?
Well, thank you. Yes. My background was I was in the Navy until I lost my sight about 25 years ago. And then I wasn't really going to have much more of a career in the Navy. But I was probably the first person wearing uniform, using a white stick, tapping my way around the Portsmouth Naval Dockyard. Anyway, I was medically discharged from the Navy, and I started my business, Disability Dynamics, to help other people with disabilities to get back to work. And that's what I've been doing for about 20 years. But I also decided that I needed some way of trying to change the general public's attitudes towards disabled people, because they often think that we actually have rather sad lives and can't do much. And that's not the truth at all, as all of you will know. So I started doing Baking Blind because I was making lots and lots of Christmas cakes one Christmas for all my friends and family. And somebody said, that's a bit mad, and you're a blind person too. And I thought, I've always done this. And so I thought perhaps this is a way of showing other people in the big wide world that blind people can do things. And then I won the Holman Prize. So I went on a world tour cooking with professional chefs and home cooks. I was in America, Costa Rica, Australia, China, Africa, and in Hampshire. And so there's loads of videos on the Baking Blind YouTube channel of me doing cooking with all these other much better chefs and cooks than me. But it may sound a bit foolish to say, go and watch the videos. Actually, they're all done with lots and lots of audio because, of course, I had to edit them. So I needed to know, what was going on the video. So I think they are pretty accessible for other people who haven't got any sight. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's fascinating. It was wonderful to do that world tour.
It was really exciting. I'm just writing the book now with all the recipes and all the stories. And one day, if I ever find a publisher, wild enough to do it, I might even get it published.
Wonderful.
And your slogan, Penny, for Baking Blind, I love it. It's, what is it? It's you don't have to be blind to cook, but it helps. I love it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Well, I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of my time in the kitchen listening. I'm listening to how hot the oven is. I'm listening to how hot a pan is, how ingredients are coming together, and I'm smelling. Yesterday, I was showing somebody how to make Victoria sponges, and I can be in here and I can smell when those sponges are done. And I know even before the wretched Alexa comes off with her timing, that's about the time when those sponges need to come out of the oven.
Brilliant.
So, and other people don't do that. They don't recognize, or they don't use all their senses when they're cooking. So they don't get all the fun out of it, really.
Now, a lot of people think that we've got extra senses when we lose our vision, don't they? But
I have them on top of my head like tentacles.
Yeah. It's just that we learn how to use them better when we lose the sense, isn't it?
Yes. We just concentrate on them and use them properly. Well, I think what's really amusing is that people think that we can't see what they're doing. And of course, we can't see what they're doing, but we know what they're doing. Because the way they change their head position, when they're looking down, when they're moving, you know, we hear all of that. You know, so I know when my sous chef is playing with his phone because I can hear it in his voice.
Yeah.
Somebody once told me it's not a disability, it's an ability.
Well, it's certainly a different ability. And you think about the problem solving that most of us have achieved just to live normally, never mind taking on the challenges of work. We are problem solving all the time. We're using imagination, flexibility, different senses, different approaches, and we have huge numbers of skills that many people just don't recognize. And I think they could be equally valuable in the home and in the workplace and anywhere else. You know, I do all sorts of things in my local community. You know, you can imagine, you can hear it in my voice, can't you? Quite bossy. It's the naval background. Right, I'm going to see how my bread's doing.
Mine's smelling lovely.
I've still got another couple of minutes.
If you are happy to be seen on video and see your lovely creations, please make sure your videos are on, because we're going to, when we've seen Penny's creation, we'll then go to gallery mode, and when we can see everyone's.
Right, what you're doing is when it's got to its 25 minutes, turn it over on the baking sheet, put it back into the oven for another 5 minutes.
What's the matter, Alexa?
Does that mean flip it over? Just flip it over?
Just flip it over.
Right, gotcha.
So you've got a flat bottom on the top.
Sorry.
I'm
sure there's a song about that flat bottom.
One feels if it's done, it's very crispy on the top.
It will be crispy on the top.
Yes, it's very crispy. Is that right? Yeah.
It will be. Do you remember we were talking about putting in water to make it crispier? You don't really need it with this recipe.
No, you don't. It's very, very crispy on the top. I just
turn it over and feel its bottom.
Yes. It's else, I presume it's done.
Quite like it.
You don't get an offer like that often, do you?
I wish we had smelly TV, because I'm just jealous. I can't smell bread cooking.
Smells nice.
Does it smell lush?
Yeah.
So, being a total person that's never eaten soda bread ever, do you just treat it as normal bread, like make a sandwich of it? I know it's probably a crazy question.
Well, one of the things you'll find is that this is crumblier
right.
bread.
Oh, yeah.
So the slices are going to be rather thicker. So if you can get your mouth around a soda bread sandwich, you're doing very well.
I haven't seen the size of my mouth, Penny.
Right, that's my 5 minutes. I am now going to switch my oven off. My bread is coming out. I'm bringing it over to the work surface. I want to show you one other thing. And because this tray is jolly hot, I have somewhere here a silicon mat that I'm putting on the work surface so that it doesn't burn. And
good
I
idea.
have here my talking thermometer.
Okay.
All right.
Now, the first thing you do is feel this bread. Can you hear it? Ready? Here we go.
Oh.
That is the bottom of my bread. Okay, I'm turning it over. Here's the top of the bread.
Oh, right.
Can you hear how hard that is? Okay. I'm going to put the thermometer into it. Now, the recommendations I've heard is that bread needs to be between 88 and 99 degrees. Yeah, my thermometer's going up in temperature. Yeah, here this is up to 88 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. So I know it's cooked. If I was making a yeasted bread, it's probably going to reach more like 95 and upwards, but this is enough for this bread. If we
Sorry, mine is 86. That's fine.
Well, let's try it. You know, we're only going to learn, aren't we? I should think by the time it's cooled a little bit, anything that's not cooked in the middle should be done.
Doing on the video now is a collage of mini videos showing everyone's soda bread that they made during this session. They're all looking very lovely.
It's lovely.
Pennies.
Yeah. It's on the breadboard, not all of it's bread. Have it while it's hot.
Chris has put his glasses on.
We talked about using different flours, but also you could add chopped herbs.
Ooh.
You could add pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, different sorts.
I might
of
try
seeds.
that, yes.
Yeah,
I have one recipe for fruited soda bread in one of my books. I might give that a go. Slightly tweaked.
Yep, so a couple of handfuls of sultanas or raisins in there. So you could make one with a little curry flavour by putting in some garam masala.
Oh, I like that idea.
Perhaps some cumin seeds.
That's fruit, yeah.
You could make an onion bread if you cooked some onions beforehand and just mix those in. You have to be careful with that because you're adding quite a lot more liquid. But you know, this is such a simple bread that you can experiment. It's not expensive to make. It's not difficult to make. No. And if you have a disaster, just chop it up and give it to the birds.
Yeah. We're putting the event up on Eventbrite for the 12th of April once I've confirmed with Penny that is a good date for yourself as well.
Yeah.
And thanks all for coming, guys, and we will hope to see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Our next baking session with Penny will be on the 12th of April at 10:30 a.m. via Zoom. If you'd like to register for this session, please get in contact with OpenSite Hampshire on 02380 641 244 or visit our social media pages or our website at www.opensite.org.uk.